All right, here we're going to be doing the jack-o'-lantern LED tea light, and what we're going to do is draw this sketch, um, revolve it. It's going to give us like an apple type profile. I've got dimensions there. You want to use about 6 or 7 points to create that sketch. Um, and then we're going to create a second sketch, which will give us one segment of the pumpkin. If the bottom part of the pumpkin does not end up with a solid shape, it will not shell. So you have to have a solid surface on the bottom, so you might have to just guess and check and adjust your spline in order to get um, a solid feature on the bottom. So let's look at how this works out. So I've got a demo file already started here. Let's go ahead and create a sketch on the front plane. Let me go ahead and minimize my data panel. First thing I want to do is draw a rectangle. It's a 2-point rectangle, and I want it to be drawn with construction lines. So over here on the sketch palette, I have selected construction line tool, and let's go ahead and just kind of eyeball that. Um, the middle line, where is going to be my axis of revolution, so I'll hit escape to get out of the tool. I want that to be a center line. So I'm going to select that line and change that to a center line. And it's very faint, but now we can see that that is a center line. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, instead of just the orange construction lines that I had a moment ago. Okay. I want to turn construction line tool off at this point because now the rest of my lines that I draw are going to be object lines. Before we start drawing some things, let's put some dimensions in. So I want 1.5 inches at the top side. I want the left side to be 2 inches high. And then let's go ahead and grab the point tool and let's put 2 points in. Initially, I'm just going to eyeball. I want to make sure I get the blue X that shows that, hey, you're on the line. I want to put a point eyeballed up there. And when I'm doing this, make sure that you do not select a midpoint because then you will not be able to change it. So I'm going to just come over a little ways, make sure I have blue X, click on the line. Okay, let's add some more dimensions. D for dimension. From that point to the origin needs to be 1.75 inches. Now, when I create my other dimension, that needs to be a 1.75 inch diameter, and that's also why I use that construction line. I want to make sure I click the line, which we see highlights in blue, for the center line, and that point where I want to end my spline, 1.75. If you click the origin point, it will give you a radius, not a diameter. And since this is revolving, I wanted to use that diameter value. All right, so now escape gets you out of the tool. I'm going to create a spline. When we do the spline, we want to do a control point spline rather than a fit point spline. It's a little easier to modify afterwards. Now, when I first start drawing this spline, I want to go about 6 or 7 points, and I've found that it's easier if I just kind of eyeball and make sure that all those points are inside my construction line box. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, green check mark to finish the spline. And now, if if you want to kind of drag your points around, again, making sure you don't drop it on a line or at a midpoint, I'm going to drag that point up a little bit. I'm going to drag this one over. And I'm just trying to make, you can have a unique shaped pumpkin. One thing I can tell you, if you have a pumpkin that's, coming down like this, that's going to have a lot of difficulty um, when it comes down to doing the sweep, and you're going to get kind of wonky segments on your outside of your pumpkin, and it won't be able to show. So again, do I care that it's not fully constrained? No, the shape of the pumpkin is organic, and it's a little bit um, artistic. So not fully constrained on the shape of the spline. That's okay. Finish the sketch. We will revolve. You're going to click your profile. And, oh, I'm missing an object line. Okay, so as we notice, I have a center line and a spline. I am missing an object line at the bottom. So how do we fix that? Let's go back in, edit the sketch. A beginner will often keep creating new sketches. I need to go back in, edit the sketch. Let's go ahead and draw that object line in there. Could have done that as an object line to begin with instead of the point. Anyways, now I should be able to revolve. So let's go revolve, and now I get this apple shape. Okay, we'll go ahead and say okay. All right, so I have this apple shape. If I did a good job, I will have a solid surface on the bottom after I do my next sketch. Let me go ahead and toggle off my canvas for what my next sketch needs to look like. And I want to create a sketch on the bottom face. On the bottom face, now it's sort of important to recognize here, that's creating a line from the revolve that is going to be the path that I'm going to sweep. So I want to make sure that I draw this line so that it is centered on this piece of pumpkin pie. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to intentionally, I want to make sure I get blue X, but I'm going to intentionally make this bigger than 30 degrees above horizontal. So I'm going to just draw that in there. I'm going to intentionally make this one less than 30 degrees. Okay. I want an isometric or isosceles like piece of pumpkin pie, and I want it centered with the horizontal, with the x-axis here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to grab the horizontal vertical constraint, and let's line those points up so that they are vertical with each other. So now we see they're over top each other. And then let's do a angular dimension. So I'm going to do 2 lines. We'll dimension an angle. And I want that angle to be 60-degree piece of pie. And next, let's do a center point arc. 3-point arc. Let's do a 3-point arc where we click endpoint, endpoint, and then a point in the middle. And you'll see I need one more dimension. I need a dimension from the center point to the center point, and I want that to be approximately 1/2 inch. Okay, so that gives me a little piece on the outside here. I'll finish my sketch, and I'm going to do a sweep. So that is not as common a tool. So on the create panel, I need to go into my sweep menu, or my create menu, find sweep. And what I want to do, I want to sweep that little piece there along that path. Initially, it wants to change it to a cut. and I want to make it a join. So on my dialog box, make sure that I'm joining. I'll say OK, and then let's look at the bottom. When I look at my bottom face, I have one solid face. Again, let me see if I can edit this. If you have something wonky like this, that is not going to shell. I don't have a solid face. And we see the segment also looks kind of wonky. It's under wrapping and so on here. So if you get something like that, you just need to play guess and check with that initial revolve until you get a solid face so that it will shell, because right now it will not. I'm going to just undo that because I had a good segment there. For my pumpkin, I want to now do a circular pattern. And let's go ahead and pattern a feature. You can select it from the design workspace, or you can select it from the design timeline at the bottom, or the history. Select your feature. Then notice it's looking for an axis. What is blue is active. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my y-axis, and I want 12 segments on my pumpkin. And that's looking pretty good. Then I'm going to be able to shell. I want to pick a rounded shell. I want to pick my bottom face, and I'm going to shell by 0.1 inches. Sometimes that takes a while to think. Go ahead and say OK. So then we will go ahead and save. And there is my jack-o'-lantern, or at least the start of it. Next, I'm going to want an offset work plane. So that is a big button, big tool, offset plane. I need what a work plane is looking for. It's looking for an orientation and then a location. So I can just pick an origin work plane, and all of my points on my pumpkin, my segments, are coming to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. That is going to be different for everybody depending upon exactly what your spline shape looked like, because your segments are all similar but going to be slightly different. So this time I'm getting like a 1.844. Say OK. That throws, it's very faint, but this orange piece of paper that's kind of inside of my pumpkin actually, that gives me a piece of paper to put a sketch on. So now I'm going to create a sketch. I want to make sure I get that orange plane. Let's just draw a circle for the stem, and let's make it about 0.35. Finish my sketch. I need another sketch that's going to be the path of my sweep to create my stem. So I'm just going to go back to my front plane, my original origin plane. I need to now do create project, because that sketch needs to be attached to my circle. So I need to project that circular center point. We see here's the diameter of my circle. All I really need is the center point. If you get the whole line too, no big deal. I'm going to create project, say OK. We saw it turn my center point from a grayish color to now a purple color. Next, I'm going to do create. We could go crazy with this, but this is just going to be a small 3-point arc instead of going crazy with another spline. So I'm just going to do a starting point, an ending point, and then just a nice gentle curve. Again, I don't really care. I don't want this thing being too hanging over too far, because it's going to print better if it's more vertical. But you can now adjust your points a little bit to whatever looks good for your artistic view of your pumpkin stem. So we will finish the sketch, create a spline again, or a sweep, create a sweep. And what I need is a profile and a path. Because that starts down inside the pumpkin, it wants to start out cutting. We want to join. And if you want to make it a little bit realistic, you could also do that taper at, say, -3 degrees or something, so it gets a little smaller as it tapers upwards. And depending upon your diameter and your shape, somewhere between -2 and -5 degrees. Yeah, I'm going to go 3.5. Okay. All right, so now save early, save often. Make sure that's saved in the right workspace. I have a pumpkin. Now, I got a space for my tea light. Next, I want to be able to draw a face. In order to draw a face, I'm going to want to have another offset plane. So this time I'm going to go ahead and grab my plane, use the front face again. I'm going to move to the right view on the view cube, and I'm going to pull this work plane out. Looks like about 1.6. That is exactly where I am. That is out just outside of the face of my pumpkin. Go ahead and say OK. And that gives me a piece of paper to draw my face. You may want to select the construction line tools and create project again. And I'm just going to select all three of those, say OK, and you'll notice they're very faint, but that created some purple projected lines of the segments of my pumpkin and the points. That gives me something to measure to if I really care about my pumpkin being symmetrical. But now you have, if I want to space my eyes out, I can center my eyes like perfectly. Ooh, I want to make sure I'm back on construction line turned off. If I want to make sure my eyes are symmetrical, I can come back in and do that. Make them equal to each other. Make them horizontal. So now when I dimension one eyeball, I can guess and check, change a number. Everything should be kind of moving together, and I can kind of get them positioned where I want them. Okay. Other tools you might use, just line segment tool. Maybe I want a nose. Do I want my nose to be symmetrical or not? That's up to you. It does not have to be. So maybe I want my center point of my nose to be above the origin, but maybe I want this asymmetrical triangle for my nose. Something like that. Other tools you might use might be ellipse or arc tool to create your mouth. And maybe I do want my mouth centered, so I'm going to make sure that origin point is above the origin. Again, once you draw something, you can always kind of move things around. And then maybe I'll come in and just draw a 3-point arc. That gives me a nice smile. Trim tool. Maybe I'll trim away the rest of that ellipse. So I have this nice big smile. And then it's up to you if you want to add teeth or not. I'm just going to add a couple nice big buck teeth here. Oh, and somehow I missed. Let's undo. I trimmed a bit too much. Oh, that's why. I missed being on the line, so let's do coincident. Make sure that point is on the line, and then trim. So I have an enclosed profile for my mouth. Okay, so whatever face you got, you're going to draw your face on that plane that is offset off the face of your pumpkin. And next, if it works to emboss, you get a little bit different face if you emboss versus just a cut extrude. It's a good idea to save. Embossing and projecting to the surface uses a lot of uh, math in the cloud, and if it has something that it does not like, you will crash Fusion. So make sure you have saved. If you emboss, it will wrap those shapes to the surface. Um, so it probably looks a touch better if you emboss, but if embossing kills your file, just doing a cut extrude is just fine. We'll see if this emboss works. I'm going to emboss. I'm going to click my profiles for my eyes and my mouth, and I'm going to select the deboss tool, faces. When you do the faces, you want to make sure you select your middle face first, because otherwise, for some reason, it wants to shift it. So I'm going to go ahead and select my middle face, and now you can see it's taking a little while to think. And it still does not say OK. So it looks like the face that I drew is going to have difficulty embossing. So I'm going to just go ahead and cancel that. Again, if it will, you probably have to go about negative 0.15 depth or so. I'm just going to do a cut extrude. And this would kind of be sloppy bad CAD, just to blow that back somewhere in the middle of the pumpkin so that it cuts through that shell. Don't blow it out the other side. Go ahead and say OK. And there is my pumpkin face. We'll go ahead and save that. Okay. In my body, I probably want to rename my body as Conrad Pumpkin or Conrad Jack-o'-lantern. Under the Modify panel, physical material, you can see right now it remembers the material that I used last. And the last thing I did was some type of fishing lure project where I was using lead. So that's actually the chemical formula for solder. It is 60% tin and 40% lead. That's happened to be what was in the library for lead, was that combination of tin and solder and lead to make solder. So I'm going to change to my favorites. I'm going to change to PLA, which we have already set up at another time. If not, you can always use like ABS plastic. And then if you don't like your color, maybe you don't want a teal or purple pumpkin, then after we accept the material, we can modify the appearance. If we go down into paint, find one of our paints that we have. If it's a color that hasn't been used yet, you might need to download it. And as soon as you pull that into your project, it will paint it. Then you close that. Modify physical material, or wait a second, modify appearance. Modify appearance. There is the color used. So probably I want to duplicate that color, and then I can edit that color. Now we have this color swatch like going to the hardware store. So I'm just going to look up oranges. And it looks like flame orange is a nice bright pumpkin, or maybe persimmon orange. I'm going to select persimmon orange, say OK, and now let's drag that out, and that'll change the color of my pumpkin. And why do we change that color? We change that color so that in the properties, now I can see that the mass of my pumpkin is 1.35 ounces, 1.348, and that's why we change that. So that now we can set up a proportion to solve for the estimated cost of printing my pumpkin. Okay, so all in all, there's the pumpkin. Make sure I save. We'll catch you on the flip side.